talking.
Yes, podcast authorized. So Melanie is our speaker today, and she's a publisher and a speaker and an author and a woman extraordinaire. But I'll officially, I don't know, I will officially introduce her in just a sec. Let me see how we're doing on folks jumping in here. Okay. Well, shoot, I have that it's 1 minute after, so I say we get started. So, welcome everybody. Kathy Fayok here, the business book strategist, welcoming you to this special masterclass. I am really, really excited about introducing you to Melanie Johnson. Melanie and I, get this, are co-authors in the brand new book that I just got today, Authority. You can see her, well, let's see, Jen Foster. Oh, her name is right there. My name is right here. And so I'll be talking more about this later, but we're very, very excited about this. Destined to be a Wall Street Journal and or USA Today bestseller. Fingers crossed. Yes. So Melanie and I are in a mastermind together. It's a group of publishers, and it's called the Business Accelerator Group, and she is awesome. She has her own publishing company, Elite Online Publishing, and she's an author. She has authored a book on this topic. So her book that was just recently came out in a bestseller, right, Melanie?
Yep.
Is podcast authorized. So it's all about how you can take your book and make it a podcast, or start with a podcast and make it into a book. And she's got apparently a great story that sort of how she stumbled into this. So Melanie, I'm just going to turn it over to you and you can take it away.
Terrific. So I'm just going to give you a brief background on myself. I started in the TV business as a TV anchor in Detroit. And then my husband and I started a TV station from scratch in Texas, in Houston, Texas, and then bought another one in Dallas. So my background is really TV, media, advertising, produced television shows, morning shows, children's shows, all that kind of stuff, as well as now being a publisher and a podcaster. So one of the first things that we did when Jen Foster and I started our company, within months of incorporating our company, is we started a podcast. So that was over 5 years ago that we jumped into the podcast arena. It was still kind of new, but we knew that was a great way to brand ourselves while we were doing that. So, and hence, I'm going to walk you through what a podcast has done for us and how you can leverage it. So one story is my brother keeps saying, I look at your podcast. First of all, always do a video podcast. We do ours as video. And he says, on YouTube, you've got like 20 people watching your podcast. And I'm like, I know, and I don't care. Like, that's not the purpose of our podcast. So let's go into why do you make a podcast and what's the purpose of your podcast. So some people's podcasts, the reason you do it is to get a huge audience and try and sell advertising time, just like you would a radio station or a TV station, right? So our formula is the other formula that's out there is to use the podcast as a platform to promote your own business, get credibility in the marketplace, get people to trust you, and interview people that you think would be your future clients or strategic partners. So that's one of the biggest things. So you're going to get that credibility. You get that face-to-face contact with them. So let me tell you one of our first stories. We were looking for guests, had just started out. Podcasts weren't really super popular yet. So I'm like, all right, how are we going to get guests? And we just wanted authors. So I called a PR company in Houston, said, are you representing any authors? And they were. Mika Mossbacher, her husband used to be a senator. So she came on our show. She had written a book about racing Ferraris. And doing what we started doing this right away. We started giving her tips. Hey, we saw your book. We saw it on Amazon. You don't have an Amazon author page. You should really get an Amazon author page. Gosh, you don't have an audiobook. You might want to think about having an audiobook. I want to do all of those things. I think I should have you do it. But then she realized she needed to have her publisher do it because she was tied in with what we call the publishing handcuffs, that they had control over everything. So about a year later, she recommended a friend of hers to us to publish her book. So we published her book. So she recommended a client to us. So from that interview, she gave us a client. Then about 6 months later, after her client's book became a big success, she said, I saw what you do with my girlfriend. I was very impressed. This was right after Hurricane Harvey. I live in Houston. She says, I want to write a book about the hurricane and all the positive stories that came out about it. And she said, I just want to tell you, my other publisher still have no Amazon author page. I still have no audiobook. I can't get them to move off the dime. So I'm hiring you to do my next book. So she became a client. And then from there, the girl she recommended, she has given us 3 clients. And Mika has given us another 2 clients just from that one podcast. So that's the power of getting in front of people and getting to know them. You get the opportunity before a podcast, right, to have these nice, warm, fuzzy conversations, introduce yourself a little bit, get to know them, then do the interview where you can dive deep into who they are and their needs. And then afterwards, you can wrap up if you can serve them. I just had someone who pitched me, I bought their services. I've bought 2 recently of people I interviewed, I bought their services. And or we've become strategic alliances where we're going to send each other clients. So that's how we leverage our podcast. And those are some of the reasons why that you want to have a podcast and some of the stories. Now, a lot of people are overwhelmed, like, okay, I'm glad to see all of you have a book. I'm so impressed. Well, I shouldn't be impressed because you're all with Kathy, right? So you all have a business book. So that's a great way to start. So people who don't have a book, they're or if they're starting from scratch, don't have a podcast or a book, you're starting from scratch. So I'm going to speak to all of you because you already have a book or you're working on a book because you're with Kathy. So what you do is you take your book and that's the outline to start your podcast. So you go into each chapter, right? And think about what that chapter is about, the value that you're adding on that chapter, and you can talk about that. So there's different ways to do a podcast. You can either be a solo podcaster where you just go on and talk yourself, or you can interview people. So my suggestion, if it's you guys are all looking to get more business, I would suggest interviewing other people, but you can still talk about the topic in your book. For example, let's say you're a finance person and you want to talk about the value you bring, that you're an expert at mutual funds and you're trying to get into this certain client that you haven't been able to get into. You can offer to interview them on your podcast, right? And while you're interviewing them, you would talk about mutual funds specifically and about what you're trying to get to them. So you use the sale point that you want to use for that client as the topic of part of your interview and draw them in. Right? So that's kind of the key of what you want to do when you're doing it. So I suggest interviewing people versus being solo because it gives you that interactivity with somebody else that you can bounce things off of, and you're getting that prospective client. But start with the content from your book. We've done like a mixture of 2, which you can also do a mixture where you do some on your own and some where you have interviews. So the ones on your own are the ones where you're really talking about your services and the chapters of your book that you're experts in. So those can be shorter. I would say 10 minutes to 15-minute episodes for that. And then the other ones, you can go 15 to 30 minutes when you're interviewing somebody. Kind of that drive time. Well, we used to have drive time. We don't have so much drive time anymore with COVID. So what you want to do is talk about all the services. So that's a whole series of podcasts that you can do that are all about your services from the chapters of your book. And you've got plenty of content there that you can use. And then the other, you can intermingle with interviews of prospective clients that you want. Does anybody have any questions so far? Yep.
Oh, I had to find my unmute. One of the things I've heard is one of the most successful strategies is definitely calling as guests people that you'd like to do business with. I mean, that to me was just like, oh my gosh, that's so brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. And you just never know who somebody else is going to refer to you. So we've had a variety of people refer to us. Recently, we did a podcast 3 years ago. It was with Laurel Langmeyer, who wrote Millionaire Maker. She's a New York Times bestseller. Again, she became a client because she didn't have an Amazon author page. She used a traditional publishing house, didn't have an Amazon author page. So she hired us to do her Amazon author page. And recently, I don't know what's going on, if she's She's posted it on her social media, but we've had 3 people walk in the door. I found you with your interview with Laurel Langmeyer. So, so a strategy, let's go into some of the technical part of it when you're creating your podcast. First, oh, go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah. I see that Julie has a question. So, Julie,
sure.
you want to unmute and jump in?
Thank you, Kathy and Melanie. And Melanie, maybe you're going to speak to this right now, which is like, I get everything that you're saying, but I don't even know where to start. How do you do a podcast? So are you going to talk maybe a little bit about the technical?
Yeah. I am, because that's the overwhelm part, right? So we rebriefed about let's just recap of why to do it. You're going to build your credibility. You're going to attract your ideal audience, right? Because you're speaking about the topic that you're an expert at. So people who are going to listen to your podcast are going to be people that are interested. Again, if you're financial services or real estate or coaching on a certain subject, you're going to get those people. You get to get face-to-face with your prospects, right? That ideal client, you're now in an intimate setting, talking with them and getting to know each other. That's just invaluable. And then we always suggest this is part of the technical part, that you should do a beautiful image behind you, right? I think that's a must. You don't want to you guys all look great in your living rooms, but when you have a professional image behind you, it just makes so different. We do this for our clients all the time. We started doing these, we did them for us, and then everyone said, oh, I love your images. So the next thing I knew, we were doing it for a bunch of people, became a new service that we offered. And then also the SEO, let's talk about the SEO. So when you start putting these podcasts out there, you're going to start to get search engine optimization is going to start picking you up. Because think about, you're going to do a topic maybe on each chapter, which is a service you offer. So if people are searching for that particular thing, then it's going to come up in the podcast. All right. And then you're going to start having this library of content. Let's say a client asks you a specific question. You can send them a copy. I just did this the other day. I said, you know what? We have a podcast on that. And I sent a prospect the podcast on it. They wanted the answer to these questions. I said, here's the whole podcast. You can listen to it. And by the way, we have the transcript of it as well. Right? And it gives you a chance to promote your products and services in a different way that's not salesy. You know, it's really elegant and sophisticated the way that you're going to promote it. And then you get to be a better speaker. If any of you are wanting to be a speaker, then it's going to hone those skills and you're going to get better and better. And what I would say, we have a great time doing ours. It's fun. It's something that we enjoy doing. We meet new people all the time, and it's just a fun thing to do. So what we recommend, let's start getting into some of the technical part. So what we recommend is that you do at least one podcast a week. You're like, oh man, I got to stop my life for once a week and do this. Not necessarily. So we started doing ours twice a month, but we would do 2 people 2 times a month. And then we decided, all right, let's be more time efficient. Let's do 4 at one time. So the second Friday of the month, Jen and I interview 4 people back to back to back. So we set an hour aside. So we do 1 hour in between. So we do it like noon, 1, 2, and 3. But the interviews generally last a half hour to 45 minutes with the talking back and forth. So we get enough to go to the bathroom in between and set up for the next one. So that's what I would recommend. Second, when you're getting started, you're going to need a virtual background. So I'm hoping all of you, since you have your book, so that would tell me that you each have a logo, that you have a brand, that you have a website. Does everyone have a website here? Yes. Okay. You're working on it. Camille's working on her website. Okay. Definitely. If you need help with that, we do those. So I'm happy to help you. You can fill out a form. We can look at helping you get that set up right away. So every author, that's a whole nother conversation why every author should have an author website. So because you want to have somewhere where you can put those podcasts, right? That's associated with you. Right. When you record your podcast, it should be, we like Zoom. So I suggest using Zoom to record it. Yep. And then you want to do video. Some people just do audio. We like video better because then it can go everywhere. So people consume things in different ways. Some like to watch, some just like to listen, and some like to read. So when you record your podcast, we want you to put it on YouTube. We want you to put it across all your social media channels. We want it to be transcribed, so then you can make a blog post out of it. So think about it. Someone can read it, someone can watch it, or someone can listen to it. So you've hit all three cylinders with your podcast. All right, so first you have to come up with the concept of your podcast, which is really all of you would use your book, your expertise for your concept. Make an outline. So I want each of it would be on your to-do list is spend 5 minutes and write down the topics from your book that you would like to cover, which are really your chapter headings. So that's kind of almost done for you, but maybe some other intricacies within the chapter headings. Okay. Then I want you to go through your target list of people and make a list of at least 10 people that you would like to be able to interview. And sky is the limit. So many times you think, oh my gosh, well, I would like to interview, somebody big, someone, maybe someone from the Shark Tank. And you think, oh, like Damon Johns would never say yes to be on my podcast. But, they're definitely going to say no. It's already no if you never ask them. So put it out there. You just never know what can happen. We've had people that we thought would never be on our show that said, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to come on. And we got them on our show. So make those lists. I would suggest 2 lists. One, which is your target people. Have that friendly list of people that you already know that would come on your show to get you rolling and get you started. The list of people that you would love to be your clients. And that's that I wish they would be on my show list. Okay. So then you have that. Then I want you to, next on the to-do would be just to carve the email invitation for them to be on your show. So what's great about going through the email process is it makes you decide what your show's about and who it's for and what the benefit of your show is. So what your show is about, who it's for, and the benefits of watching your show. Those are the 3 things that should be in your email. So then they know why they want to be on the show. And then that transcends to the show description. Paul, did you have a comment?
Yeah, could you repeat those 3 again real quick? I'm not the quickest writer.
Sure. So what your show is about, right?
Okay.
Who your target market is, and the benefits that the show offers.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So remember when you're doing your show, it's all about the audience. So the term is what's in it for your audience? What's in it for them? Why should they listen to you? Why is your content valuable? What are the things they're going to get out of it? So one way I always like to start our show is, let's say Kathy is our guest. So it's the hook. If you've ever thought, so here's an example, this is just off the top of my head. If you've ever thought of writing a book and it's been so overwhelming and you want to know the secrets behind writing a great book, we've got the guest for you today, right? Intriguing, right? So it's just that question. So it's kind of those same types of things. You want to have that hook for each podcast and for your podcast. So the podcast overall, you want to have the hook of what they're going to get out of it, the benefits from it. Okay, the next thing you're going to need is your design and artwork. Okay, so the artwork is not just the background, like we have the virtual background, but you're going to need artwork that's going to be that little icon you see when you do a podcast. It has a little icon on there that shows, the artwork. You can have your picture on there. You can not have your picture on there. I kind of suggest if you're just getting started, just make it a regular logo. Print in there, and you have to have the title. So again, the title should be something that ties to your business name or the benefit that they're getting, right? So like there's one called Millionaire Mentor. So you know what you're getting, right? You're going to get someone who's going to help teach you to be a millionaire. Ours is Elite Expert Insider. So we know you're getting tips from elite people that are experts in their fields. You're getting the inside look. So you want to come up with a title that's really resonating with them. All right. Then the other thing you have to do is now you have to optimize and customize your podcast with SEO. So what does that mean? So that means your keywords, your titles, your descriptions, all of that. So you got to figure out what keywords are people going to be looking for. And then you want to have great titles and descriptions for each episode. All right. And then we talked about how you're going to record. You want to make sure you have a good microphone. We've used a lot of times just the microphone on our computer, but you can get a Nessie mic. Matter of fact, I think I have one here. I thought I had one right here on my desk. I've just moved. But, just kind of a nice microphone. I think Kathy has one that she can show you. Yeah. For under $100, you can get a nice mic. I just bought this really cool little light on Amazon. It's a ring light. It was $30. Right? So for under $200, you all have a laptop, you can be in business for the equipment side of it. Then this is more of the trickier part, is you have to get your hosting and get it set up. So you've got to put your files somewhere, which should be Libsyn. We use Libsyn. We like them the best. So they're going to host all your episodes. That's like, you call like website hosting. There's podcast hosting. So Libsyn is your podcast host where you upload all your shows to, and then you're going to syndicate it, and you've got to get your RSS feed from there. And the RSS feed is the one that's going to go to iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, all those places, but you have to sign up for all of those. Yep. Right. We're going to, when you edit we like to do ours live. I suggest that you do it live. Like, don't go, oh, we're going to stop and start in between if it's not perfect. So we call it live recorded, kind of like we're doing now. And the beauty is, in the TV business, back in the day, we wanted everything to be so perfect and look just right. And today it's shotgun. People expect you to stop and start and do different things. Oh, this fell. You just keep going. So record it live. So you have the beginning opening. So we have the warm up with our guest. Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah. Okay, we're going to get ready. We're going to record now. Ready? And we hit that record button. Hey, this is Melanie Johnson. Welcome to another episode of Elite Online Publishing, or Lead Expert Insider. We've got a great show today, blah, blah, blah. And then we just go with the whole show. And then when we're done, we just hit the stop record, right? So it makes life a lot easier, less editing. There might be times you're going to have to edit, but let's try and get as little editing as possible. And then the editing you are going to have to do is each episode is going to need, what we do for our clients is we provide a bumper. So what is a bumper? A bumper is the introduction music with a voiceover, which is you've heard them like a TV show or a movie. Hey, welcome to blah, 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 da, 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 and then it goes into the show. And same with the end. One thing to keep in mind, always have a call to action, right? So if your call to action, really, we are our own sponsor. So our call to action is, if you're looking to become a #1 best-selling author and want to write a book, contact us at Elite Online Publishing. So you can have that same thing as in your intro and your outro as your call to action. Another very important tip in the content of it is, in the very beginning, always remind people to subscribe to the show. Remember, hey, before we get started, all right, here's my hook. We are going to teach you how to write a book today and the 5 best secrets, and Kathy Fike's going to share this with you. But before that, please subscribe to our show and share it with your friends and leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. So subscribe, share, and comment. Subscribe, share, and comment. So those are the things you want to have when you're doing it. Okay. All right. And then you want to make sure you download your episodes onto an MP3, and you'll add your bumpers there. So again, when we create podcasts for clients, we create the bumpers for them and edit it all together for them. The equipment list we kind of went over. You just really need your computer, your light, your microphone. Get that virtual background done. All right. And then the other thing is, you should have a calendar system. So I don't know, we like Calendly, we use for ours. So when you send that email to the person, you're not having to go, oh, what day and time is good for you? You know you're going to record on Fridays, and these are the time slots. Just click on this link and pick your time when you want to be a guest on our show. So, and you should have this months out. We're booking our show in January already. It's October and we're booking for January, right? So you need to have a calendar system. And then you need to have an email system set up. So then you're going to email everybody your wonderful podcast after it's done. So I'm assuming most of you have some kind of a list. So you want to share it to your list and you want to post it everywhere on social media. And
Can you
then,
mention, I'm sorry, can you mention the company for the calendar system?
sure, Calendly, Calendly, right? Calendly.com. It's free. They do have a paid for service, but the free service works great. And again, I suggest hitting that once a month and just set those time blocks. If you need more time, then do it every hour and a half to whatever you're comfortable with doing it. The other thing I'm going to tell you, the secret is let's get like 10 episodes in the can before you go live. So that way, when you hit, you've got 10 episodes that are already out and have some on the back burner. So you never want to be where, I don't have an episode for this week, right? So you want to have at least 4 that you're already always 4 behind, if that makes sense. So when you're doing your current 4, you already have 4 in the can. Those are going to do the 4 weeks afterwards. So Christmas comes, somebody gets sick, something happens, life gets in the way, that you know that you still have some episodes. And then what we did is we reran some real old episodes that we had. We reran them and we had a really good response to that. So for just in case in a pinch. All right. Do you guys have any other questions?
This is so good. So Shannon has her hand up, so go for it, Shannon.
Is the Lipson service where you would find like the comments and how many subscribers you have and some of the analytics for your podcast?
They do have some there. We use another service for that. I'll find it. I don't know it off the top of my head, but they give you the analytics and you can see how your podcast grows. And there are services, we've done like a promotion to gain followers and gain subscribers, and you can invest in doing that. Usually it's about anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 to, up and get more subscribers and have more people looking at your podcast. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the analytics are important. One
other question. I have heard someone else say that you need about 5,000 subscribers before you are attractive to other sponsors. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, again, so if you're using that sponsorship model, you are going to have to gain a certain amount of people unless you're really niche oriented. Like I've got a friend of mine, she's a former newscaster, and she has her platform set up, and she has a membership model for some other things, and she was very well connected locally to BMW and Mercedes and these types of people. So she walked in and got sponsors before her show even started because they knew that was going to be their market. It's like, okay, you're only going to have maybe 500 people watching your show, but I know those people, I know the people that are following you, that's our tribe. Those are BMW buyers. So they put the money up right away. So that's another great way to do that, is you can get sponsors out of the gate. So another secret that we use, especially for authors, so let's say you're interviewing somebody and say, hey, for being on my show, I want to offer you my book to all of your employees, to all of your contact list. Do you think your group of people, your email list could benefit from my book? So it's like, yeah, I got people that want to start podcasts. So let me, I would love to have that book sent out. So we get their mailing list and we send the book out to every single person. So we've created goodwill with the person that was on the show. And now we've just spread value to all these other people, because every single one of you I know have value in your book that can make someone's life better, right? So that's the long and the short of it, is like, yeah, we want to make money and we want to sell books and get new clients in, but then there's that other aspect of how you're going to make other people's lives better just by having your book, and that's the trickle down that comes back to you in the karma, back in the circle thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, truly.
Melanie, can you explain a little bit more about how your company works with authors? In other words, let me be specific. I did self-publishing of my book through Balboa Press. Mm-hmm. Don't ever go there.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, me too. And so what how would you, maybe I need a private conversation with you, but maybe an overview of how you would change what I did with them and make me a number one. Yes, my cat is just annoying. Make me a number one best-selling author. I've actually thought about reorganizing it and retitling it.
Yeah, a lot of times we get authors that they publish their book and then it goes nowhere. And they don't have a plan of how to use their book for their business. And that's one of the biggest things that we offer. We call it a marketing roadmap. And every author is a little different depending on their business of how you're going to use your book to get those clients. Like I said, we've worked with politicians. Well, they're trying to get votes. That's a very different program than somebody who's trying to get a consulting gig or someone who's trying to get financial clients. So you have a few different strategies. Some are similar, but some are really different. I'll give you an example, like we call it and we have some that are trying to get media attention, like politicians are also trying to get media attention. So I say, all right, let's say that you're trying to get your foot in the door. It's called the foot in the door strategy. And the guy's just not answering your emails. You're not getting any response. You can't get through on the phone. So what you do is you send your book to them, hardback, paperback book to them. And the gatekeeper is not going to open a package from Amazon or even a private package that's dressed up real nice and looks pretty that's delivered. No one's going to open that. Only he's going to open that. It's going to go right on his desk. And you put a note on that package when he opens it up. Hey, I love what you're doing with your business. I just wrote this book and I think something on page 52 could really 10x your business. Do you think he's going to look at page 52?
Yeah.
So that's going to happen. And then we take that strategy and we blow it up. Let's say you're really trying to make an impact. Let's say it's a company of 50 people. So your book costs you wholesale about $3 plus shipping. Maybe it's $4. Even say it's $5 all in. So $5 times 50 is what? $250. Let's say you send a book to every single person in the office and they get it on the same day. Everyone in the office is holding your book. Hey, who is this person? Oh my gosh. And they all have the note on it. Look at page 52. I think that might be a good idea, boss. Did you read page 52? This would really work for us. We should do that. Oh my gosh. Maybe we should just hire them and they could implement that. Right? So those are the kind of strategies we say when you work with us, we want to kick you to make a touchdown on the first play. So that's the goal. When an author launches their book, you want to score a touchdown on the first play. And then we want to keep you in that 10-yard line all the time. Try and keep those sales up with things that you do. So if you're a speaker, then we have strategies of how to boost the sales of your book during speaking events. So you're getting that extra boost and hitting number one again. Again, it's not all about book sales, right? We tell our authors, don't get caught up in book sales. It's about that back end of how you're getting those clients. But boosting your book makes a difference too, because it's showing this activity and Amazon says, hey, we're going to send it to people that we think are interested. Let's talk about that for a minute. We're kind of veering off, but let's talk about the SEO of Amazon. Once your book is on Amazon, you are now hiring Amazon for free to work for you. They're now going to send emails out on your behalf. Hey, this book is trending, right? Well, you should take a look at this. And those are going to be people that are interested in that topic. Again, I'll use finance. Geez, this person is buying finance books, so they must be an investor. So let's send an email promoting this book to these investors. When you have, Karen, did you have a question? Okay. And then the other thing is when you have that Amazon author page, so hopefully, do all of you have an Amazon author page set up? Yes. Okay. Do all of you have 8 videos on your page? Do all of you have 8 photos on your page? Okay. Do all of you in your bio, do you have all the links to all your social media, to your website, to your courses on your page?
Great questions. Oh my gosh.
So I'll go back to Laura Langmeyer, who has all these books, all these products and courses, and none of that was on her Amazon author page. And it showed up number 3 when you searched for her. Above her books, above everything else. So you picked it up and it was like this dysfunctional page without a picture on it, just didn't look right. So now we have testimonials on there for her video. We have a video of her talking about some of her products that she sells. She's got several videos on that. So like Kathy, you would have a video on there talking about book coaching and the benefits of working with a book coach. You'd have a testimonial from Paul working with you and saying how great it was and how you accomplished getting your book done. So you'd have pictures of you standing on stage speaking or working with clients. So it's all giving that extra credibility. And then guess what that page does for you? You can send it off to someone. Hey, Paul, send me some more information about you. Hey, here's the link to my Amazon author page. It has my bio, photographs. You can just grab the headshot from there. It has videos on me. It has testimonials on me. It has everything that you need. Then the other thing you connect, so this is the podcast part of it. When you have a podcast, you can connect the RSS feed to the Amazon author page. So every time you upload a new podcast, it goes to your Amazon author page. Amazon likes the SEO, it keeps pushing it up. Plus people can follow you on your Amazon author page, just like you do a Facebook page. And then it notifies the people following you, hey, they got something new. Oh, and by the way, you can list events there. You're speaking somewhere. Right? Shannon's got a speaking gig coming up next month. She can post the event right on her Amazon author page, and it lets people know that her speaking gig is coming up if they're following you there. And remember, when you're doing your podcast too, let's go over pricing. Like, what does it really cost? Like, are you going to do it yourself or are you going to pay somebody to do it? That's one of the big questions. And it's kind of just like publishing too. Do you have the time to self-publish your book, learn how to put it on Amazon, learn how to do the files, all that stuff? And some people do. It's obviously, if you do it yourself, it's less expensive, but it's a time opportunity cost, is you have to weigh that out. I always tell people publishing and podcasting is like building or remodeling a house. Either you can learn how to be the tile layer or the electrician and the plumber and Google all the videos, how do I lay the floor, and spend the time to do that, which is great if you've got that niche and you want to do that. Or you can hire all those trades yourself separately, right? Okay, I'm going to hire the tile layer. I got to find an electrician. Hopefully they're a good one and they're not going to screw up my wiring and they're going to show up for work every day. Or you hire a general contractor. The general contractor has all the team already in place and they build your house and basically you walk in and put your furniture in. So, and it just, everyone has a different budget and everyone's in a different place. And I understand people who have to do it themselves and people who feel like they want to do their own team. And then there's the people who like hire us and then we do everything for them. So you just have to decide where you want. If you go do a team thing, like you're going to have someone like us do it, prices range anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 a month. And that's to edit the videos, right? To put the bumpers on, to listen to Libsyn, to set everything up in the back end that we talked about, to come up with your icons, walk you through the purpose of your show, your target market. So you find out who all that is. You work with a coach like when you work with Kathy. You get to the core of what all that is. And then they create the look for you, the brand for you. They upload it every week for you so you don't have to worry about it. And then you just have the fun part. And I have to say that's what I do because my team does all that for me. So I love it because I just do the fun part and do the show and then the rest is done. It's posted on my social media. It's done that. So it just depends where you're at and how much work you want to put in and what your budget is. So you have to ask, like I asked myself, all right, what I spend a year, let's say you're spending $24,000 a year on your podcast. What's one client worth to you? And what's the lifetime of that client worth to you? How many referrals are you going to get from that? So you've got to look at that, the price and the branding and the SEO of what the return on the investment is, the ROI for you. And when you're starting out, sometimes you don't get it right away, but then you see it exponentially as it grows. And the other thing is, so you're going to be selling your book, your business on your podcast, but you're also selling your book too. You're getting awareness for your book. So it's really a twofold thing.
This is so good. You know what occurs to me, Melanie, is that I've been doing these master classes, but I could repurpose these master classes as a podcast, couldn't I?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, let's talk about repurposing. Kathy and I talked about this a little bit before. So like you're taking your book content and you're repurposing that same content into a podcast, right? Or you can repurpose it into videos. So it can start somewhere. If you have YouTube videos, the YouTube videos can become podcast. I was going to tell the story. You asked me to tell the story about how this book came about. So let me tell you the story about how this book came about. So we did a podcast with Steve Gordon, who's on this book. Just somebody who wanted to be on our show, and we connected with him. We had a great podcast, and we said, this is really good content. We have synergy. We should do a webinar together. So we did a webinar, which we did pre-COVID, like February. We were like, we're going to do it before the end of the year. And then it ended up January. Then we did it February, but we did it. So we had a webinar. From the webinar, we each got leads from there. We got 2 new authors from the webinar. Okay. Then we decided the webinar was really pretty good. The webinar was like a 2-hour deal that we did. Let's turn the webinar into a book. So this book was our webinar. So we had the podcast turned into a webinar, turned into a book, right? And now I'm on Kathy's show because I have this book. So think about that. I don't know if any of you know Tim Ferriss. Are any of you familiar with Tim Ferriss? Tim Ferriss he came up with the 4-Hour Work Week was his book. He's pretty famous in the world of podcasting, book writing, and all that kind of stuff. So his latest book was a compilation of his podcast turned into a book. So that's the other thing. When you're thinking about doing your next book, you can work with Kathy, come out with the outline and have her coach you through what the format should be. And then you can create your book from the podcast. So that's a new product that we've been selling. It's like, okay, we're going to walk you through getting your VIP day, getting your book all crafted, what should be in it, what stories you want to tell, who your audience is, what goes in each single chapter. And then you're going to do a podcast episode on it. So now you have all these podcast episodes, you have them transcribed, have them edited, and now you have a book. So, you did your first book. So take what Kathy teaches and then just record it. And then you have podcast episodes, YouTube episodes, blog posts from it, and you have a book from it, all from one time. So we say create it once and use it on multiple platforms. It just makes your life so much easier. So many times we're like, oh, I got to start from scratch. I got to do this all over. We had an author who's coming up this week. He's the president of the NFL team, the Houston Texans, Jamie Roots. And he was on that hamster wheel of what I should write. Come to find out, he had over 50 speeches he had done, all different speeches, but all on leadership. But he used different stories. And I was like, Jamie, you have your book written. You have all of these speeches already. So we drew from all of those speeches to create his book for him. And now eventually he wants to take the book and possibly do a podcast with it and talk about leadership from all the different acronyms and things that he created in the book.
I love it. I love it. Making our lives easier and that we're doing 3 things at one time. I just love it.
Yes, killing multiple birds. So who wants to do things over and over and over again?
Yeah. So this is great. So who has some other questions for Melanie? You can see that she just really knows her stuff and she's an amazing resource. So, because I know several of you are thinking about your own podcast. I saw Dr. Kieran's hand first, and then we'll go to Paul.
Hi, Melanie. Thanks a lot for all this information. It's absolutely priceless.
Great.
But you mentioned that you did interviews for a half hour to 45 minutes, right?
Our podcast interviews are 15 to 30 minutes when we interview someone. So we do it kind of drive time is what we've been doing. But I'll tell you, there's no wrong time. You can interview, some people do, Joe Rogan. He's the most popular podcast. People just Spotify paid him millions of dollars to only be on Spotify. He does 2-hour interviews. So there's really no wrong or right. They specify 15 to 30 minutes, but we've had people on that the conversation's been so great that we've just kept going.
Okay. Okay. I just wondered if there was kind of, obviously it's topic driven and then, what kind of interest it generates and stuff. But, for people who might be starting out and stuff, is there some kind of a norm or an average or an expectation, I guess?
Yeah, most interviews are that 15 to 30 minutes mark. And again, if they tend not to be a good interview, then you're cutting it more short. And if they're a great interview, you're tending to go long.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great question. Paul, I think you were next.
Yeah, you mentioned about once I do one, transcribe it. Is that through another program, or how do you do the transcribe? I'm sorry, I'm not computer literate.
Sure. So we use a tool called Otter. Otter transcribes it for us. And then we have someone on our team that puts it all together with the show notes and puts it up.
Yeah, and there's a number of different apps that you can use. If you use Zoom, if you have the enterprise account, it will do the transcription for you. So there's lots of options out there. Otter, Temi, so lots of options.
Okay.
Great question. Thanks, Paul. Who else has a question for Melanie? Yes, Camille.
Hi, Melanie, thank you so much, and everybody here. It is a valuable information. I'm kind of like on the DIY budget frame. I have an upcoming book. Can you put on an author page on Amazon as an upcoming author?
No, you have to have your book.
You have to have your book.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't, oh, I'm sorry.
No, it can be pre-order. Even if pre-order, you can do it, but it has to be up there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And may I ask, can you begin podcasts then, as you said before, if you're a storyteller?
Yeah.
I find I am a good storyteller and have many, many stories on my thus far journey that is a portion of my book and will be.
All right, so Camille, this is what I would suggest to you, since you're, someone who's on a tight budget. Let's start with recording your stories on YouTube. That's free.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't cost you anything. And then you can later repurpose those same YouTube videos and upload them to a podcast. So think about it like someone has Netflix and somebody else has Hulu, right?
Uh-huh.
So they might be watching you on Netflix, but not everybody has Netflix or is a Netflix watcher, and other people are more of a Hulu watcher. Like my kids don't watch network TV at all, never. They are always on YouTube. So, and I watch YouTube, but for other content, I'm always on regular TV. So you get different audiences on different platforms. So don't feel like, oh, well, it's the same thing. You want to put it on those different platforms. You're going to get a different audience, and you're going to boost your SEO and your brand by doing that.
Okay. And may I just ask one quick more question? I'm sorry. I don't mean to monopolize. If I was to do my small, short YouTube live, then can I put it on Facebook on my author page that I have? Can I share it in the free social medias as well? And I did kind of forget my question.
But once you have the video, Camille, you can use the heck out of it. So you can put it on Facebook, and Facebook loves video. Facebook,
it can go on all your social media. One point about the videos on the Amazon author page is they have to be under 10 minutes long for the author page videos. And you can trade those out. We suggest doing it every quarter or twice a year, minimum once a year, update it, because you're doing different things. Hopefully all of you are continuing to grow and do new exciting stuff. So you want to update that with the newest things that you're doing.
Oh, I know what I was going to quickly ask. What if my audience base, my client base is toward coaching to kind of find repurpose to empowerment of self-love? Mm-hmm. Do you follow that? How do I attract that client? By its title, by everything I choose and the content within?
Right. So you want to search like the keywords. What are people who are looking for that? What words would they be typing in their computer?
Okay.
That's what you want.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Great. Other questions? Because I know Shannon, you're still planning to do your podcast, aren't you?
It is definitely on the business strategy plan. We don't have a date to do that. We have been seeking, though, as part of our author launch, our book launch, to be guest podcasters on other podcasts. So kind of getting experience by watching how other people are podcasting has been valuable. And then looking for clarity on exactly what we want our podcast to be about. But definitely, I believe that it's a niche that is going to be really profitable for a lot of authors, and we're excited to delve into it. So thank you, Melanie, for all the information.
Sure. Well, let me give you a couple stats. So 50% of all homes are podcast fans. That's over 60 million homes are podcast fans. So they say 51% of Americans age 12 and up listen to a podcast. 32% of Americans have listened in the past month. So these are just really huge numbers. And those last two numbers were from 2019. So, they've grown even more because every year podcasts are growing exponentially. There's more and more podcasts coming out. The other great thing about podcasts is it lives forever. So like Shannon, when you start to create those podcasts, they don't go away. They're always there. They always live there, which is wonderful versus doing other things that come and go and you don't always necessarily have them in front of people. You have that library of content that you can share and repurpose in a new book. So those interviews, again, we did the Book Writing Bible. Our first podcast, we connected with all the different publishers and authors we already knew because it was low-hanging fruit, so to speak. They were friendly fruit to be on our podcast when we were getting our feet wet. And so then we took all those interviews and turned it into the Book Writing Bible and launched a book out of it right after we did it. So, it's just a great way to keep repurposing. And it's another reason to connect with your base and the people you're already talking to. It's like, hey, we got a new podcast coming out. Here's a new episode. So they're hearing from you, but you're giving value at the same time. You're not being salesy. You're presenting a lot of value to them.
One thing I just thought of to ask is you had mentioned the difference between the solo versus the interview style for podcasting. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I wrote a book together, and we really do a lot of talking and speaking together. So I envision that there would be value in both of us sharing our own podcast as far as doing episodes together, just us talking about things and issues that are important to us. But then I also want to do interviewing. So can that be married together and under one podcast roof and not be confusing for people?
Absolutely. Jen Foster and I do the exact same thing. So we're co-host of our podcast. We bring guests on, and then there's times it's just the two of us, and we're talking about something about publishing. Hey, something new that came out. And so we do that all the time. We encourage you to do a combination of both.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Well, this has just been great. We still have a few more minutes. If you have any other questions, you have to leave, Julie, okay? Well, this has just been awesome. Any final questions? Paul.
Okay, Melanie, with my book, it's where I tried to do 50 marathons, 50 states in 50 weeks.
Wow.
And one of those is I do need to come back and do Houston because I only got 11 miles before too many flats and I had to stop. So I want to come back to Houston, and the marathon asked me to be a speaker at the expo before. So I will be back in Houston, but not in 2021 in January because of the pandemic. But on each of them I tried to do, it was called 50 Abilities Marathons. And so each chapter I'm putting an ability. So I have 50 chapters. Kathy Fox said, you wrote 4 books. I can't do that. I brought it down to 2. And, but anyways, I started to do a blog because I heard you got to do blogs. So I started taking the blogs, but then with this podcast, now that's come up. So with the blogs, I was taking each ability and I was changing a little bit. So it wasn't specific to the chapter about the marathons. It was about the ability. Mm-hmm. But when I come back to do it for the book, I guess I need to bring it back to like that marathon or to that ability, or because when you say bring in a speaker to add to that, how do you kind of see that? Or
And it can be either way, Paul, right? You can do it on your own if you want. Like you're just talking about the ability, each of those 50 abilities. You got 50 episodes right there. You can bring a guest on that they give their opinion about the 50, about one of the abilities. So you're going to pick an ability and have them chime in on it. Maybe they're another runner and, hey, have you ever tried this? What do you think of that? And that sort of thing, if you're more comfortable doing that.
okay.
But definitely, I would take each of those 50. Each one is a separate episode that you could go on about and use it. And then for anyone who's camera shy here, you can do just the audio, right? And then on the video portion, so you're doing video, but for the video portion, instead of showing you have like a little squiggly line or something or some kind of graphic going, and it's just your voice that they're hearing the whole time. So if you're camera shy, you can do that as well.
I somehow think that nobody here is that camera shy.
I don't think so either.
But this is great. This is great. Well, Melanie, thank you so much. Tell us again the name of your book so we can make note of it and run out and purchase it. Podcast Authorized. And it's really about how to turn your podcast into a book or your book into a podcast. And
there's some great tips too in here on how to monetize your book as well, and great tips for creating content. We have the 10 by 3 by 3, which is the 10 most frequently asked questions, along with the stories and tips that go with it. So there's a lot of content jammed into that little book.
Well, this is great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Melanie, for your fabulous expertise. And remember, go out there and make your mark. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.